Hey, guess what? I did a collaboration. I know, it's exactly what YouTube has told me I'm supposed to do for all these years, and then I finally did it. With the Cinema Snob. This past month, him and I took a look at the movie God Bless the Broken Road. It's a really fun review. On top of that, if you want to hear a more, I guess you could say candid, off-the-cuff conversation between Cinema Snob and myself, then you can check out my podcast, the Say Goodnight Kevin podcast. There's a link in the description. It's a really great conversation. It's one of my favorite podcasts I've done so far because it was just really interesting to get to sit down and talk to somebody who does what I do, which is watch all of these movies, like these crappy Christian movies. I have a feeling it might be fascinating for you, so go check that out. Thanks so much for watching. Let's get into Football Month. Sports! Oh yeah, it's time for the second installment of this year's Football Month reviews. The last one that we did, of course, was Catching Faith 2, the biggest football movie of all time, but it turns out a second football movie came out this past year. It came out at some point recently, and this one was produced by the ultimate Christian football player, your very favorite Tim Tebow. With Tim Tebow's name behind it, could this be the one? The highly coveted, much needed Christian football movie. Many have tried, from the Kendrick brothers to the Irwins to Dallas Jenkins. There's only one way to find out if this is the one that we've been looking for, and that's to check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, grab your running shoes and get ready for my review of Run the Race. So the movie begins under the legendary Friday Night Lights. As the band swells and the color guard takes the field, you can almost smell the grass. But while the excitement is ramping up on the field, tension grows deep in the heart of the locker room as we meet our main character. This is Zach, and he's clearly very distraught. He's extremely worried. Why, you might be asking yourself? Because he knows there is a scout at the game that will be there to watch him play.
You think he's here?
Dad hasn't been really big.
I don't care about that. I'm talking about the Florida scout. This could be my only chance to be seen.
I'm sure you were all expecting me to make a joke at some point during all of that, if you've watched my videos before, but honestly, I really like this open. They really do a great job at establishing our main character and everything that's going on in his life by using as few words as possible.
You're gonna be the best player out there, and you know.
Well, it doesn't matter if there's no one there to watch it.
And in a very natural way. And this here, I think, is a great example of storytelling done well. Right off the bat, establishing our main character's biggest fear, becoming like his father and being stuck in this small town forever. Rare opportunity for me to be positive. You're welcome, everybody. Now let's get to some football!
Goose call on 3, 2,
Yeah! Oh yeah!
Can't stop, won't stop.
Football! Yeah! Sports! Oh! Oh! Wow, this is like the best football sequence I've ever seen in a Christian movie. Why isn't this the scene that gets passed around instead of the death crawl scene from Facing the Giants? Have you seen that?
This is the best scene in any movie ever.
You gonna give me your best?
I'm gonna give you my best.
Maybe it's your lucky day, Run the Race. I'm in a really good mood now. Well, the game's over, and Zach wants to know if that scout saw him.
No, I didn't see one. Look, you want to get noticed, you take this team to state. Great game tonight, Truett.
Wow, that coach seems like a total jerk. Am I right? Later, we meet the deadbeat dad that we've been hearing about. He's played by the one and only John Galt from Atlas Shrugged Part 3, of course.
Get off my porch.
This guy's a little bit hard to believe. He's a little clean cut. Most of the movies he's been in have been like Hallmark style movies. He's been in so many. It's amazing. I mean, good for him that he's getting work. He's just a little hard to believe as the deadbeat dad that they're trying to portray here in this movie. The next day, we learn that Zach's brother, he goes to church, while Zach, well, he stays home and sleeps.
Why, you wanna come with me?
Oh, I want to sleep.
Because I'm sure you all were wondering when this was going to become a Christian movie.
All right, I'll see you later.
Okay.
And at church, the pastor is also concerned about Zach not coming to church. And I gotta say, this is probably one of the least preachy Christian moments in a movie that I've seen in a long time.
Zach's a work in progress.
Sure is.
2 steps forward, 1 step back.
As long as we keep moving.
Keep moving.
Because sometimes I think it's really weird when people stand around and they talk about how they're worried that somebody isn't coming to church. However, I think in this case, it does make sense, primarily in the context of what's happening in the movie. It's more talking about their concern for these 2 boys. One of them is cutting himself off from other people in general. I think so far we've had about 10 minutes of a fairly solid Christian movie. So I guess it's about time for a montage, right? Here we get some pretty shots of this classic old town. Then we get to see our main character with his shirt off. Nice. Sports! Oh!
But you can't.
All right, and this montage goes on for quite a while. I guess it's establishing, hey, look at these 2 guys. They sure love sports, don't they? Isn't it cool? But it's fine, I can kind of give a movie a pass if it's just one montage. I mean, it's a little bit of a cop-out, but it's a sports movie, so I'll let it slide this one time. After the montage, we learn that Zach was seen by that scout. From the jerk coach.
This came for you in the mail today. Congrats. You're on somebody's radar, son.
Man, that coach is just the worst, am I right? Good for you, Zach. I'm rooting for you. Then we get a slightly sappy scene where we recap his motivation.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that scholarship. I'm gonna get us out of here. You have my word. And we'll get better cereal.
That's good. I love cereal. Then we're at the hospital with Zach. They don't say why he's there, but I can't fault it for that. I actually don't mind them leaving a little bit of ambiguity in these movies. And he meets this nurse, and they flirt.
Aren't you a little young to be a nurse?
Yes I am.
I don't date football players.
You know, I was thinking about going and getting 2 Cokes from that Coke machine, but now I'm not so sure. I might just have to keep one.
Well, I'm a Dr. Pepper girl, so.
See, that's a shame.
So far, the script is a little wonky, but these actors really do a good job at elevating the film. Good job. And speaking of job, we head over to the boys' job.
Brought you guys some soup.
This is an example of a completely unnecessary scene. This lady, Nanny, comes to the store to give some chicken and dumplings to the brothers. And this conversation serves only to inform the audience that Zach's brother had a football injury at some point recently.
After watching you take that hit last year, them carting you off the field, body all locked up.
And then, like a crazy woman, you jumped out of the stands and ran out onto the field to help me.
You shouldn't have characters talking about things that they both already know.
Good night, Nanny.
You know, I'm never gonna find a lady that can make me chicken and dumplings quite the way that Nanny can, It's a shame. She's ruined me for all womankind, I think. That's a tragedy, really. That's a tragedy, really. That's a tragedy, really.
Foreshadowing? The next day, I assume, the boys are at breakfast at the local diner.
Yeah? And it's on the house.
And how about I dedicate my first touchdown to you, my lady, my lady, my lady.
She also graduated high school the year you were born.
And she's a contemporary Christian artist.
Oh, Davy, age is no factor when you have a gift for charm, my brother.
But just then, just as things are going so great, deadbeat dad comes in.
You guys mind if I join you?
Yeah.
Man, as sad as the things that have happened to this family are, they do have great hair.
Long time no see, Pop.
But despite what seems like Zach's dad's best efforts, Zach refuses to make amends. And honestly, understandably so. Who wouldn't want to hang out with this reflective song instead of their dad?
Too distracted to react.
Oh, we're still at this scene. Okay. I fell asleep a little bit. These scenes drag. Well, it turns out really, the dad is kind of a sleazebag. He's actually just here to ask for money. And when he doesn't get any, he walks out.
Oh, make this difficult on me too, huh? Maybe that's awesome.
What's it gonna take?
Then Zach goes to a party with the goofiest looking guys and the most attractive girls in the neighborhood.
Zach, you want one more?
No, I'm good, man.
Man, these montages are gonna ruin this movie for me. What you gonna do, Zachary? You know what you gonna do.
I'm the Joe Montana of cornhole, and I've told you.
All right, let's skip to the action. Aw, yeah, Christian rap. While Zach is at the party, he gets into a fight with these rival football players.
This is a dude whose brother got knocked out.
And they mess his leg up. And as we know from Catching Faith 2, once you hurt your leg, your career is over. All you can do at that point is coach high school football. What you gonna do? How will I afford my fish if I can't even walk?
Either way, you're going to need reconstructive surgery.
I'll pay for it. As your godmother, you two are the closest things I'll ever have to sons.
Well, just then the jerk coach ad-libs his way right through the door.
What is this? You want to tell me what this is? No, move, get out the way. Huh? Don't even try to explain it, because you know what? This is on Facebook. It's posted on Facebook. What's going on with your knee? What was on your mind?
Guys, guess who's gonna be his nurse? Guess. And boy, you could cut the romantic tension with a knife.
Do you put it so that the butt is exposed, or flip it around like a coat?
No, other way. We need your butt exposed.
Quite forward.
Let me specify. The doctors need your back exposed.
Cute.
Oh, you smiled. I saw it. Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I have a streak. Tomorrow's 5 months, no smiles.
Okay, well.
Absolutely not.
I just broke your streak, I think.
Out in the waiting room, we have another pointless interaction with Nina.
Your father's a mess, but he still is your father. I'm not saying his behavior is excusable, but it is forgivable. You'd be surprised how things can start to change when you forgive someone.
You know, I didn't know who this lady was, but while I was watching it, I was like, she must be a famous person if they're gonna leave all of these scenes in. I looked her up. Apparently she was married to Clint Eastwood at some point. The point is, I could tell. This is what they always do with famous people that they get into their movies. They have them be like this kind of angelic figure that steps into the scene, and they have this important life lesson conversation with the main character, Han Solo in Rise of Skywalker. At least with this, unlike Rise of Skywalker, it's not the main character's imagination forgiving himself for murder. All right, back to the important part. Will Zach get to go on a date with the nurse?
I'm not a football player anymore. You don't
I also don't date patients, so there's that.
Now you're just making stuff up. What is that? What is that on your bracelet there? What is it?
Galatians 2:20.
Oh, I'm crucified with Christ, right?
Yeah.
He's Christian.
Listen, I'm sure our paths will cross again if it's meant to be.
Rejected! Even though we haven't had much football, at least we have a love story brewing. Then another Christian rap football scene. Then back to the grocery store. Wow, Batman v Superman cereal for only 99 cents. Hope it doesn't taste as bad as the movie. What the heck are they actually doing at the store? They just throw things? Is that how it works? Later that night, Zach's brother, I think his name is Other Zach, has a seizure on the floor. No! He's okay, don't worry, it's fine. So remember what Nana and him were talking about?
After watching you take that hit last year?
Well, this is the reason he doesn't play football. He got a football head injury. Personally, I think that it would have made a lot more sense if they would have left that conversation out and then we learned about this as we go, especially since we have had several hints.
This is a dude whose brother got knocked out.
Not that it matters, because it's time for another montage.
What you gonna do?
All right, the montage is over. That means it's time for the mean jerk coach to come taunt Zach.
Well, track season's right around the corner. Track season.
Look, if you can't play football, maybe you could just run the race? It's like a Cool Runnings type situation.
I don't run track, I play football.
That's right. You're a football player, son.
The coach doesn't really want him to run track. He's actually, I guess he's encouraging him. Throughout this whole movie, the coach has had kind of this vague hint at a one-track mind aggressiveness.
You want to get noticed, you take this team to state. But what did I tell you is the best way to get seen?
Take team to state?
Don't you forget it.
Because the coach almost always follows that up with some really nice bit of encouragement. So my guess is maybe these are remnants of a previous draft of the script that focused a little more on this coach and his move towards redemption. But that's just a theory. A football theory. And hike.
Oh, gosh.
Well, this gives his brother an idea.
What if I wanted to run track? Competitively.
Wow, it's cool that they have the same doctor as Bart Millard's dad. It's like the night nurse of the Christian movie cinematic universe. But Zach isn't quite sure about his brother's decision.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going with this.
Until a few seconds later, when he is.
We've trained together for every sport from Pee-wee baseball to varsity football.
I get it. Enough with the exposition.
I don't know, man. I'm not a trainer.
Then they have their date. And it is filled with meaningless conversations.
You told me it was really good.
I know. That's what I heard. Through the grapevine.
You know, I'm getting really sick of these movies having these quirky, meet-cute conversations.
So what do you do all day? Now that you don't play football.
Maybe go to class?
Mainly bird watching. I've gotten into bird watching pretty heavily. I also enjoy coloring.
It's funny, I guess, at first, but there's so little depth to it. It reminds me a little bit of 500 Days of Summer, but 500 Days of Summer, the whole point was that it was shallow. It was teaching him that maybe he could be happy and have fun without everything being super serious. But this, I don't know, it's just two attractive people making small talk, being relentlessly sarcastic.
I'm about 72 pages into my most recent coloring book. I got it 3 days ago, so I've really been...
I mean, if I wanted that, I'd watch my own videos. Sorry, we don't have time for that. It's montage time. Melodramatic montage. And everyone is sitting around sad.
I've been looking.
A lot of cereal in this movie. It's because it's the day that the mother died. And here, we learn a little bit about what happened to the mom.
I had 20 Christmases with her, 2 Christmases with her.
This is great. It's a great example of holding off on information. Keeps me interested. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. Keeps you wondering. And it makes the world a little more real.
How about 2 Christmases without us? Your sons.
I don't mean to drill that point so hard lately, but it's just something I've been thinking about, I guess. Now it's time for church, and because it's Christmas time, Zach decides to go. But the Sunday service really convicts Zach, which causes him on the ride home to reiterate his character's primary motivation.
I don't want to get stuck here. You know, end up like Dad.
Remember the thing about track? I don't know how long it's been. It's been a little while. The brothers start training for track. Yeah, it's time for a falling in love / brother getting good at track montage. Ugh. This is too many montages. What are you doing, movie? Things happening, life happening, things. After that, it's time to meet the parents, and this is kind of a princess cut type situation. Obviously, you know, with better actors.
Tell me what you like about my daughter, Zach.
Dad.
It gets real awkward. It's uncomfortable.
You know, I like spending time with her, and she's obviously very beautiful.
I think there's moments in this scene that aren't supposed to be awkward, and then there's moments that are, and it's a little bit hard to differentiate the two.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, ma'am.
Thank you, Zach.
Don't make eyes at my wife, son.
I was just making a joke.
So was I.
Okay.
And what do you think about Jesus?
Could we go back to talking about how hot her mother is? Despite the awkward transition that would have made me just run out of the room, this last part of the scene is pretty good. Zach opens up and is pretty honest about his faith.
I grew up in church and everything, but as I got older, I started asking all these, questions, and now there's just a lot of things I'm unsure about.
Like what?
If you really want to know.
I don't think they do, Zach. He asks the questions that a lot of these movies ask, which is, again, why do bad things happen to good people?
I don't understand why Jesus would leave towns before everybody was healed. I don't understand why terrible people get to live to be 100 and amazing people like my mother were taken away too early.
And that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's probably one of the most common questions that people ask when they're thinking about their faith in any sort of real way. They look around at the world and they're like, preachers and Christians kept saying that, hey, life is like this, and it just doesn't seem to line up with reality. Which I think, personally, is really respectable. But the family, they don't feel so much like that.
Can we eat?
Yes, please.
Let's eat.
Well, this leads to Zach, like an idiot, getting into a fight with Amanda.
You just trust him. Okay, he's gonna meet you wherever you're at.
Really? I've just had the switch turned to off the whole time. You know, the one that says, trust God. I'm such an idiot. Maybe I should just turn it on. Then I can be good enough for your little club.
What are you doing, Zach? When you find a girl like this, you fake it till you make it.
Thanks for coming tonight, Zach.
And now it's time for the big race.
On your mark.
And boy, we're really cheering for this unearned race. Woo! Yeah, we're cheering even though it's for the main character's brother. Cool.
And Troy wins it with a 49.32.
You know what we haven't had in a while?
I see a world.
I don't want to be super shallow and act like montages are inherently bad. They can be used well, and usually when they're used well, you hardly notice them. And I think that if there were fewer in this movie, I would probably think that it was fine. There's just so many. Why? Perhaps this was gonna be a short film, and then Tim Tebow got involved, and they're like, well, we could make it a whole movie probably. I know what you guys are really concerned about right now. What about Zach's girlfriend? Are they gonna make up? Are things gonna be better? Yeah, they do.
I'm sorry. I was such a jerk to you. And I know that. And
I'm willing to pretend to be a part of whatever religion I need to get to be your boyfriend. I was crying so much over this.
We have a lot that we need to talk about. You really hurt me.
What did he do? I'm confused.
sorry.
You know, part of me feels like I've lost sight of what the motivation of the character is. Could we get a recap on that?
I'm gonna go to state, and I'm gonna win. Who's not gonna give a scholarship to the state champ? But we're gonna get out of here. And that's the plan. I believe in the plan. And I believe in you.
And I believe in love after love after love. Well, it sounds like everything seems to be going pretty good, but we're only beginning the third act, so I think it's about time for everything to go wrong. That's when Zach's brother has another seizure attack, and this one's worse than ever before. Yeah.
Hey, you're good, bud. Easy.
And he winds up in the hospital. But that means that he's not able to run the race. I don't know what to do. I don't know what anybody's gonna do. What is Zach gonna do? If only he could get some friendly advice from an old actress. Oh, wait.
When I was 21, the doctors found tumors on both of my ovaries.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, now it's time to reflect. Think, Zach. Think back. Don't think too hard, though. Okay, don't think about the questions that you asked earlier that were pretty legitimate and interesting. No, just believe. Just do it. Just don't think about it. Just do it. That's right. It's our Kendrick Brothers Field moment.
Every time I come and pray to you, it's so hard. I did it for my mama. You didn't help me then, and I don't understand that. I never will. I'm begging that you'll hear me now, because I'm done running.
You see, he says he's done running. But maybe, just maybe, he isn't done running. The race. Well, now that Zach's made up with his girlfriend, his brother, his God, there's one last person he needs to talk to.
I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, but the biggest mistake that I ever made was walking out on you and your brother. I'm sorry.
Finally, Zach's brother wakes up, and he can't wait to tell him the good news of him becoming a Christian.
I walked into that house not believing, and I walked out.
Look, I know that this happens to people. People, like, they've been living their life hating God, and then all of a sudden, boom, boom, bam, bang, boom, beam. They're changed overnight. I mean, it happened to Kanye. It's just, ugh. My faith journey has been so freaking slow. I am a Christian. I know. Crazy to think about, but so brave that I say it. But it isn't something that happened to me overnight. I think part of that is I'm very skeptical, I'm very cynical, and I'm scared of believing a lie. Like, I don't want to look like an idiot. I don't want to look like a fool. So when people ask these questions that Zach asked at the dinner table, and then we have a scene like this when they haven't answered them. Like, the movie just gave up on answering those questions for us and said, nope, don't worry about it. Give up on the questions. and I don't think you should. Well, Zach's brother is coping with the fact that the plan that he believed in so much has fallen apart.
So it wasn't part of the plan. You know what? Maybe there's something better waiting for us.
And that's when he realizes perhaps he has a better plan.
Why don't you run in my place?
What?
For Zach to run the race in place of his brother so they can finally get out of that one-horse town. And then that jerk coach finally redeems himself.
I'll probably have to sign you in as your brother.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very official, though.
Well, let me make a couple calls. I'll get you cleared to run.
Now it's time for Zach to run the race in place of his brother so they can finally get out of that one-horse town. Wait, but before we do, I think it's time for an awkward sports player cameo, don't you think?
Coach tells me your knee's back in playing shape. I'm looking forward to seeing what you got out there.
Race time, and you might be able to guess what's about to happen, right? There's only two ways this movie could really go.
Well, he isn't worse, but he isn't getting better.
The worst way it could go is that the brother is miraculously healed.
If we lose, are we gonna get cancer?
Or it can go the way the movie decides to go. Zach runs the race. He does amazing, but
No hope. No hope.
God has one last sappy thing for him to experience. Zach's brother dies in the hospital. You know, this is kind of the age-old Kevin Sorbo conundrum. It always leaves audiences
Disappointed!
God's not dead. Kevin Sorbo says, I'm an atheist and I hate God because God killed my mother. When he's about to die, he's like, oh, no, I believe now. Let there be light. His son dies, and so he becomes an atheist. But then his wife dying makes him believe again. It cancels itself out. I mean, at least in this, you kind of go on the faith journey with the character, kind of. I just feel like it's a bit of a cheap shot. But what would this movie be if it didn't leave us with one last montage to this melodramatic indie pop music?
I've been running, but I don't know why. I fool myself.
The brother dies, but fortunately, we see sparks of a rekindled relationship with the father. So it was all worth it.
Your brother, remember when he was a boy, he used to sleep with this under his pillow. I got it from his hospital.
See, now that last scene is probably all you ever needed. Like, the implication is there that this is where Zach is going to search for answers to the questions he had earlier in the movie. And then we get the ugly stepsister of voiceover.
Davey is my hero. He taught me in life there are only two ways you can be running.
A fake-out voiceover where he's actually teaching a younger class about his experience.
So much time.
I don't think I could take it if there was another Christian movie about running that did the same thing at some point last year. Wow, it took 3 writers and 2 different ways of spelling and. Wait, whoa. Did you think the movie was over? You forgot. We need an unnecessary cameo from the executive producer.
Hey, Truett. Welcome to Gator Nation, man.
Cool.
Thanks, bro. Congratulations, man. I love your story. Keep it up, all right?
Yes, sir.
Well, there you have it. Run the race. And I gotta say, I'm fairly impressed with this movie. It's a little bit slow. It drags a good bit throughout it. But there are elements, there's points that are really good. The acting is very impressive. It feels like a movie. I think the biggest issue that I have with this, though, is probably the story itself. It's just too boring to justify it not being a true story. They've got all of this sappy stuff. The mom dies, the deadbeat dad, the small town dreams, the loss of faith, the finding of faith, the injuries, the girlfriend, the breaking up, the hospital visits, all of the things that happen in an inspirational Christian football movie. But it's not even a true story. You could literally write anything. You could have football in space if you wanted. I'm not saying that would make it better. I'm just saying that I feel like maybe if you took 1 or 2 of the sappy elements and replaced them with 1 or 2 interesting elements, that would make a better movie. The movie drags a lot. And I talk about the sappiness because I feel like this movie at times seems to rely too heavily on the emotional impact it's going to have on audiences. And if it was a true story, I guess you could say, well, you know what, we're not gonna make up stuff. One thing that really stuck out is I really wish the movie hadn't had Zach become a Christian.
Oh, of course you would say that, Kevin, because you hate God.
I don't. I think I made that clear. I just think story-wise, it makes a lot more sense. You've kind of set up all of these questions that you've asked. I think the salvation moment hurts that. It's like you're saying, here's the answers. And there's more to those questions than that moment. On the contrast, if you actually just kept what's in the movie and took that scene out, and you had there at the end, the dad and the son are rekindled, a thing that everyone can look at, what Christian or not, and say, this wasn't all for nothing. And then you have the Bible there, and so now it's implied that Zach is going to be searching. Then I think it's a more compelling story. And if you want people to go and search for the answers, and you really believe that the answers are in that book, then you've told them. It's better to ask deep questions than to give simple answers. And oftentimes, because movies feel so compelled to have that salvation moment, they undercut their deep questions by giving this simple answer without actually answering the questions that were proposed. Sometimes it's good to leave the audience just thinking. Just let them think a little bit. It's not a bad movie. I enjoyed it. The fact that it was $1.5 to $2 million budget is really impressive. So in the end, it's a pretty good movie. Check it out if you want. All right, I'm done. It's over. I'm Kevin, the accountability partner nobody asked for. Good night. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this review. I just want to give a big shout out to people on Patreon. We just had an awesome live stream. Got to talk to several of you newcomers who got the cup. Also, at the beginning of the month, I do those live streams. It's a lot of fun. Some of those people who do pledge happen to be the Voicey Here YouTube channel, Jacob and Emily Rugrock, Amanda Stewart, Isa Kabir, and Culture Shock on Webtoon. Those people are awesome. It's cool. Thank you so much, guys. I'll talk to you all later. Good night.
Tell me what you like about my daughter, Zach.
Dad.